My husband posted my body online without my permission. Now he's going to jail for 30 years. Last Friday I spent my evening with Kate, a young 24-year-old female from work, as she wanted to discuss something personal with me. I didn't think anything of it, as we do have a very personal relationship outside of work as well. As soon as I arrived at her place, the tension in the air was thick. She explained that she wanted to discuss a serious matter with me, but that she didn't know how to go about it. I told her to just rip the band-aid off and tell me. She told me that she had found 2 recordings of a woman she believed to be me on a pornographic website. I told her that wouldn't be possible, but she was adamant that I was the woman in the recording. And she was right. I've never recorded myself naked or having intercourse with my husband, but there I was in 2 recordings of 7 minutes and 4 minutes, both of them recorded in our old bedroom. As I rewatched every second of it, it started to dawn on me that this was my husband's doing. But I pushed that deep down because there must be a reasonable explanation for this. Honestly, I left her place with my mind in a complete meltdown. I could barely hear what she was saying, but she did follow up with a text saying she's been in contact with the website about getting it taken down and that she'll help me go through this. She also said she's scouring the internet in case there are more out there. I came home and pretty much ransacked my house looking for evidence, and I found it. My husband was using hidden spy cameras to spy on me and record me in my most intimate moments. I then just spent hours vomiting, crying, projectile vomiting some more, and begging God to just let this be a nightmare. I am a deeply religious and a fully veiled Muslim woman, and I've never been with anyone but my husband, and all this time he has been sharing my most intimate moments with the world. I don't know what to think or what to do. I can't look at him or speak to him. I've locked myself in our bedroom pretending I have COVID. All I do is look up how other people have dealt with getting things removed, and it seems like once it's on the internet it really is forever, even if I remove it from this website. I've been crying non-stop. He truly must be something demonic, as he is right now talking about ordering in some of my favorites to see if I have an appetite, since I haven't been eating well. I am so unbelievably hurt. I don't know how to share this with my family, how to ask for help. I am crippled with shame, anger and pain. Answering some questions. 1. My husband, soon to be ex-husband, and I are of the same religion, race, ethnicity, and nationality. 2. My culture does not participate in honor killings, and I'm not afraid of my family harming me or not siding with me. 3. My family would support me in divorcing him. In fact, they would demand I do. 4. The laws in my country are secular, but in certain circumstances it allows for the various religious groups in the country to hold their own courts that can enforce their rulings, as long as it doesn't impose or break secular law or civil liberties. 5. I plan on taking this to a secular court and religious court, as I want him punished. 6. I am veiled by choice, and the vast majority of my fellow countrywomen do not veil. 7. I am a niqabi, meaning the only part of me visible to the public are my eyes. When I am with my family or with other women, in women-only spaces I don't veil. 8. Kate and I do not share the same religion, nor dress alike, and yet we are friends. Quell surprise. Update. I left him as I said I would. He went to work. The movers arrived, we packed my stuff and we left. The entire time I was crying, to the point that even the movers were worried for me, but I couldn't stop myself from crying. I went home, sat my parents and siblings down, and explained the situation. My parents were and still are confused. They are elderly and fragile. They don't understand the internet. They just keep saying, okay, let's talk to the people and it will be gone. But my siblings understand. They are angry. They are sad and heartbroken on my behalf. My siblings and brother-in-laws took me home. We waited for him and we had a conversation with him. He denied it at first, so my brothers were firm with him and he started to be more truthful. He said he did it because he was depressed, because he had a porn addiction, intercourse addiction, and because he didn't think anyone would see it. He said he posted only a few. When we asked him to be specific, he said he posted anything from 5 to 8. We had him take it down, but who knows how many times it has been downloaded or shared. In that moment I also found out he had a secret phone. He was also cheating on me with random women and intercourse workers. All this time I was thinking he's working hard, but nope, he was out disgracing himself and betraying our marriage. At some point he convinced us he needed to use the bathroom, and he somehow managed to call his mother, who arrived at our home with his brother and cousins. There was a commotion as they were angry at the treatment of their family member. Then things calmed down enough to explain to them what he had done. His mother fainted. His mother is elderly and not in the greatest health condition. We called for an ambulance. My neighbor had also called the police and I was arrested by the time the ambulance arrived to take care of my mother-in-law. I spent the evening locked up. Didn't exactly have a polite conversation with him. So yes, I was arrested for assaulting him, specifically slapping him, and he refused to press charges. Got released the next morning and went home to my parents. Cried some more because my parents kept crying. Then a few days later I spoke to some lawyers my sister had contacted as they had experience with non-consensual material being posted online. They have been handling things with the police as I did press charges, and they are dealing with the websites. I also have started the process of divorce. I went to the clinic and got tested, and luckily he didn't give me anything so far, but I have another test scheduled just to make sure. I have spoken to his mother and she apologized to me even though it's not her fault. She told me that she understood why I wanted him punished. She asked that I let it stay in the hands of the law rather than hurt him or have him hurt. He's in hiding, but he still calls and texts me from random numbers. He still lies and tries to manipulate me. I've just been documenting everything he says and texts to me. Oh, at this point everyone knows. I mean everyone, even little kids. And I feel more humiliated now than I did at first. Update 2. This man has destroyed everything I have worked for and has completely destroyed the very little sense of stability and safety I had left. I had to resign from my job, a job that I loved. Jobs don't come easy for me with the way that I look. I can't work there anymore because I am a potential danger to the children and staff. Since then, perverted men have started to harass me at work. I work with vulnerable children, and mothers who have heard about me have started to refuse me working with their children. Some don't want me to be involved with their child because their husbands can't stop being weird. Fathers have leered at me or made lewd comments toward me, and one of them even offered me money to sleep with him. Men have cackled me with greater frequency than ever before. Men stare at me. A man followed me from my dentist office and groped me on the street. Random men call my phone, my family home and office to verbally abuse me because my husband has posted my address, my personal and work email, phone numbers, workplace address, and every other bit of information online. It is as if the eyes and judgment of the entire world is on me. Yes, the great majority of people are sympathetic, kind, and in support of me. Many people have reached out in support of me, from old classmates to former colleagues, neighbors, members of my religious community, family, friends. His family and many more have expressed solidarity and kindness, but the crazies and perverts who believe him and are like him are bolder, louder, and much more noticeable. Then I found out from my lawyers and their investigators that he was drugging me and assaulting me as I slept. I suffer from migraines and insomnia and take medication for it. He saw my medication as an opportunity to drug me with my own prescriptions. He was actually bragging on a forum where other perverts congregate how he was so clever for drugging me with my own medication, and they were encouraging him to do more things to me. Soon-to-be ex-husband has also decided to spread rumors that I was aware of the cameras and pressured him into posting online, and there are people who believe him. He also changed his mind about not pressing charges. I went to court. The judge and prosecutors were sympathetic and dismissed the case. It was a combination of my lawyers explaining the circumstances that led to me slapping him and his subsequent actions threatening me, attacking me, doxing me, and blackmailing me by saying he didn't care about the slap and that he would drop everything if I forgave him. My lawyers used his own words against him since he wrote it in text, and on a recorded call he admitted to me not having slapped him that hard and that he only pressed charges to cause me harm. But his crimes against me are still being investigated by the prosecutors. Uploaded this before, but it was deleted for some reason. Update: I wish I could say I was feeling better or doing better, but I feel awful, and I am still struggling with everything. It is still his life's mission to be as cruel as he can be and to stand in the way of every step I make. He is still refusing to work with my divorce lawyer. He continues to be difficult every step of the way, and has run off his own lawyers. He is now on his third lawyer, and we are again starting from scratch in the divorce negotiations. He has been granted an extension by the courts due to his last lawyer just dropping him a few days before our hearing. As for posting non-consensual material, a trial date was scheduled, and he recently asked for an extension, and he'll probably be granted it as his criminal lawyer dropped him too. So in last month he has been dropped by his divorce lawyer and his criminal lawyer. The man is on a roll. When it rains it sure pours. My father passed a little over a month ago, and my mother is now in hospice care as she is soon to go back to God. I'm sad but not shocked about this, as I've had a long time to prepare for it. My father had been battling cancer for almost 3 years, and so was as prepared as a person can be, and my mother's health had been declining significantly for years due to her dementia. Soon-to-be ex-husband decided it was a great idea to corner me at the venue we held the after-funeral meal at. He decided to wait for me to be alone. He approached me as I was cleaning up the venue. I was on my own, and at that time I was kind of exhausted and could not muster up the rage to chase him off as I had done many times before. So I just let him talk. He seemed almost decent as he was giving his million excuses on why things were the way they were. He cried about how awful he feels for hurting me. Then he started telling me about how he always felt I was better than him in everything as I made more money, was better educated, had been better traveled than him, and that he felt jealous of my confidence, and how in the beginning these were things that he was most attracted to, but as our relationship and marriage progressed these were the things he started to dislike about me. He also said that he was angry that I refused to consider being a stay-at-home wife and mother, even though he knew from the beginning that I wasn't the stay-at-home, homemaker type. He said that he tried to be a good husband, but that my refusal to bend or let him have the last say in things was the catalyst for his anger and need to humiliate me. He talked about how he had always had an addiction issues, but he thought that if he was married he would be cured of his depression, his porn and intercourse addiction, and he felt like if I ever found out I would have never married him or would divorce him, and that angered him and pushed him to want to punish me for thinking I was better than him. He was jealous and angry about so many things. But when I said to him, "So you hurt me because you felt jealous and inadequate in comparison," he lost his mind and started to shout and say that he knew I would react that way. I decided to refrain from commenting further and just let him spill his guts uninterrupted. For 3 hours he made excuse after excuse for why he did what he did. But it all comes down to him feeling inferior to me, him being jealous and angry that I dared have a mind and life of my own. He said right before our wedding he joined a men's group online that were helping him deal with his porn and intercourse addiction, and one tip given was to make your own porn and watch that instead, but he knew I'd never agree to it, so it was my fault. He needed to spy on me and that he never intended to share it with others, but one day I had angered him so much, and as payback he posted it and he felt good. And so every time I emasculated him by having my own mind or upset him in some way or another, he would post more. Eventually he gained a following and had so many men asking him to post more he started to like the fact that other men looked up to him for his intercoursal prowess, and at the same time his intercourse addiction started to come back and he fell back into his habit of picking up women, and when he couldn't get it for free, he'd hire an intercourse worker. Then I guess it spiraled out of control for him. The more he spent on his addictions, the more lies he told, the more he felt like a failure for me covering our expenses, the more he resented me, and he got stuck in a cycle of self-destruction, which in turn only fueled his anger with me. He also says he joined a support group for addicts and started going to an addiction rehabilitation clinic as an outpatient to deal with his issues, and that I should give him credit for that. He feels that I should be proud of him for doing that and that I should take him back since he's putting in so much work. He also feels I should appreciate him not stalking me since my dad died, and he is sincere in feelings this way. He genuinely doesn't understand why I'm not seeing how hard he's been trying the past few months. In his deluded mind he thinks that his honesty in our conversations should count for something, and that I am just being a heartless bitch for having been stoic and unmoved by his tears and his show of vulnerability. Even though he gave a great performance of being human during our conversation, I remained unmoved by it because there was nothing to be moved about. I just continued to pack things up from the venue and got in my car and went home. I'm still not working. I still have crazy men calling my phone at all hours of the day, and I still feel humiliated and embarrassed. The only good thing that has happened is that several of the sites have taken down the recordings and banned him from using their platform. Update: finally I have some good news. So a while back I was granted a restraining protective order, and my now officially ex-husband did continue to stalk and harass me. After the umpteenth time of calling the police and going to court, he was finally imprisoned, and he has been in prison for a little over a month. I was also granted my divorce. I initially wanted a quick divorce and wanted to just give him everything he asked for, but he kept finding ways to delay or ask for more and more, and I just snapped. So I told my lawyers to do their worst, and they did. My lawyers hated him and I got everything I wanted and way more. Not to gloat, but it was really satisfying seeing him cry. This has been the most peaceful month I've had in a long time. This entire time has been such a trying time, and it has affected my mental and physical health. I've lost 12 kilograms and I've lost a ton of hair due to the stress he was causing me. But I can honestly say that him wailing in court was the chicken soup my soul needed. I've moved from my city and now live on the other side of the country, and I've gotten myself a decent enough job. I am slowly mending my confidence. I am in therapy and I can't say it's working right now, but I know if I stick with it, it will. The non-consensual material he posted has been removed from the more reputable websites he posted on, and my lawyers were able to get me monetarily compensated as these companies didn't want to go to court over it. I mean, money doesn't really change things that much and I am still hurt, but it's something. I'm also not so delusional as to think that it isn't still out there in some way or another, and I know there really isn't much I could ever do about that, so I'm just trying to make peace with it. Ex-husband will be serving time in prison for what he did. My lawyers are working with the courts and that should be sorted soon enough. I think the reality of the consequences are becoming very clear to him, as I have heard through the grapevine that he attempted to delete himself and is now in protective custody until his trial date. He is facing up to 30 years in corporal punishment, and I absolutely look forward to it. Story 2. My fiancé's graduation party for his master's might be my deal breaker. We met in college and decided to not get married until we graduated to focus on our studies, and we have been dating for 4 years. He proposed to me during his last semester of his master's program, and he is studying to become a teacher. I graduated with my bachelor's not too long ago, but his graduation party is showing a side of him that I believe to be a deal breaker. His graduation party will be held at his father's house, which has a pretty big backyard, and many of the people from our wedding will be going. However, unlike our wedding invitation list, he said he didn't want to invite Jason, fake name, and his parents because he recently came out as gay, and that led to a conversation. Jason and his parents were invited to our wedding, so that made me ask why he didn't want them at the graduation. He said that the wedding was an us thing and that he was willing to compromise because it was our wedding. But when it came to the graduation, he said it was a him thing because he was the one who graduated, so he didn't have to compromise because he did the school work. When I asked what he meant by compromise, he said he'd tolerate Jason at our wedding because that's what couples do. But the graduation was about him. When I asked if he'd support potential future children that came out, he said he'd tolerate it for me, although he disagreed with it. It is my fault for not asking that question earlier before we became engaged, but he made his stance clear. He said he'd be more distant to a child that turned out to be gay, and would probably let me do more of the parenting if so. He's always been a gentleman and amazing to me, but he grew up religious, parents were Christians, although he said he's not anymore. I don't think we have a future after he said he would distance himself from a child who came out and leave it to me. And I just want to ask how to tell him so. I'm thinking about another conversation like we had, but I want to ask for the best way to go about it. What would be the best way to tell him that I don't think we have a future together given his stance? First update. A lot of people suggested talking to my fiancé in an open space or my parents' home about my deal breaker, but I wasn't able to do it at my parents' home, although I got to talk to them and they agreed with my reasoning. They said they were disturbed by how easily he admitted he would distance himself from a potentially gay child, and that it was a good thing it came out before the wedding. I also got a lot of people calling me out for not broaching the topic of gay children or how he felt about LGBTQ in the years we dated, and that's on me for never thinking to bring up. Going forward, it will be something I ask early on before getting emotionally invested in a relationship. Because I couldn't speak to him at my parents' place, we ended up talking at a place we went for lunch, and I told him that I couldn't go forward in the relationship because he repeatedly said he wouldn't accept any children who came out. But when I said that, he didn't try to take it back and said that he was willing to compromise for me. He said it was better than pretending to agree with coming out and that he was being honest. But I told him I was done because of his beliefs, and he didn't take it well. He took it fine at the restaurant and finished lunch without saying much else, and he kept saying I was overreacting and that he couldn't believe I wanted to end the relationship over him wanting to compromise. My parents have been helping me with canceling the wedding, but he took his spite online. He made a Facebook rant a few days after that, doubled down on a lot of the things he said, and he said he made it to explain his side of things. He said that I was breaking up with him despite him honest about his willingness to compromise and not hiding it like many couples internalize things. He also said our country was changing things that was always wrong, such as gay rights, and he said that people were trying to shove gay rights down everyone's throats. He also said that you can't say anything these days because of cancel culture and Me Too catering to sensitive people. And he said that the value of education was dropping because people were becoming more stupid. He also said that that was why he wanted to become a teacher, because there weren't enough good ones, and those were just a few of the things in his rant. He also said that Me Too enabled people from the consequences of their behavior when they should instead look at themselves in the mirror, and how they dress too. He never said anything about Me Too during the duration of our relationship or anything that was outspoken about gay rights until his graduation planning. And it was honestly surprising to read what he wrote. As I said above, I will be asking these questions at the start of dating going forward. Lastly, some people suggested reporting my ex-fiancé to the school in my previous post because they said he could be harmful to gay students, and I especially agree after the post he made. I did receive a lot of hateful DMs from people who agreed with my ex and said that I'd be wrong to contact the school. Some even accused me of considering canceling him in DMs and a few comments on my last post. But I don't see it as that. I see calling the school as something that's important because this mindset is harmful to so many. And he is already a substitute teacher at an elementary school. He began subbing before he graduated. I want to ask what would be the best way to go about it, whether that would be an email, phone call, or potential visit to do it in person. I have already screenshotted the post he made, and I've only answered questions about the breakup from people who have called so far. My parents are helping me with some people who have called them too, but that is my last. Second update. To those who called me out for not seeing any signs of his homophobia earlier, you're absolutely right. I just assumed the best and never thought to question it. But I will now ask the tough questions going forward at the beginning of future relationships, such as political stances along with opinions on race and gender, and that should help prevent time from being wasted on people similar to my ex. I just assumed the best because we have another friend who is trans and was always cool with him, and my ex used to like the posts that he made when he came out some years back. He also liked a post that he shared at a pride walk, so there was that too. Going forward, I won't assume anymore because at the end of the day, a like really doesn't mean anything. I sent an email with an attachment of his now deleted Facebook rant to a few places. The school he subs at was subbing at before he graduated, and the school district along with the County Office of Education where we live, thanks to advice provided by a commenter who I DM'd for more advice. I also told people I knew about why we were breaking up and showed them the post, and that did most of the talking for me. I broke up with my ex before contacting the school, and I decided on a text because we didn't live together, and also had my dad return the ring to his parents' home where he gave it to his mom and had minimal interaction. I was too scared, cowardly to do it myself, so I took them on their offer to drop it off for me. In the text, I told him that I couldn't marry him due to his homophobic comments and opinion, along with telling him that my parents would drop off the ring so that it was in writing, and I blocked him after sending. He didn't have any belongings at my place, but he's been livid about the way I handled it, and I'll admit that I was afraid to do it face to face because I was a coward, but he took to Facebook again. He made another post talking about how dad returned the ring instead of me and that I didn't give him credit for being honest about his willingness to compromise, and proceeded to ghost him, pretty much erasing the purpose of his deleted post by referring to the same points. I'll admit that I was cowardly about how I handled it. But what really surprised me was when his dad took to Facebook about it too, and he accused me of canceling him for an opinion he shared, along with saying that communication in marriage is dead. He called me retarded in his post, and that people like me were the reason Trump lost because no one had morals. He also said that Trump needed to win again to stop canceling culture because his son was punished for his opinion. I want to remind you that my ex was not religious despite his parents being big Christians, but I'm guessing he vented to them about it and is back involved in some way given the post. The last thing I'll say is this, and I kept it to the end because I'm not looking for advice, as I'm only taking it from a lawyer on this matter that my parents have helped me contact. My ex called my job and apparently told them that I had CP and that was why he left, and I don't know where he pulled that out of his ass from. I don't know if he talked about the emails I sent to the district involving his post. But my dad seems to think that it might be retaliation, although he's not sure because it's only been a few weeks. He thinks it could be retaliation for my letter to the district or for ghosting him. But we're looking into a lawyer, as I was recently made aware of the accusation at my job when I was talked to, and that is where my focus lies. I'm not going to make any future posts because I've still received a lot of hateful DMs telling me that I was wrong to report him to the school, but I stand with my decision to do so. I really appreciate the advice I received and hope that at the least, telling the school will have done some good. Someone also suggested looking into LGBTQ things to support and give energy to, and I'll look into that once I'm past this job situation. Third update. I said that last time was gonna be my last post, but I really mean it with this one. Before I get into why though, I just want to say again that I'm sorry for not seeing his homophobia earlier. Many people have cursed at me in DMs asking how 4 years of dating never showed it, and I thought I apologized in my last post. But I kept getting those messages, so I just want to say again that I'm sorry, and that going forward, I'll ask for political, gender beliefs on the first date to not waste time with potentially hateful people. I'm just tired of being yelled at about it, and there have been some supportive comments too. But the majority of them are either calling me out for not seeing it or for wrongfully canceling him and agreeing with many of the points his father made in his Facebook rant. If the news was on TV as we were doing something, Eating, my ex didn't voice his homophobia then as many asked. And when we talked about kids, it was wrong of me to not ask what he'd think if they came out. Lesson learned for next time. As previously mentioned, we also had a friend who came out, and he's very close to them and accepting. But with that out of the way, I'll get to why this is my last post aside from the majority of hateful DMs. My ex's dad hasn't stopped posting about me on Facebook, and it's all pretty much the same cancel culture rants from last time and calling me a leftist among other things. I have also received a number of social media DMs spouting similar hate to the DMs I received on Reddit. And I directly blame him and his dad for this. I mentioned last time that I was looking into a lawyer, and my parents have helped me with the search, which has been helpful because of how his dad continued. His dad posted my socials and home address to one of his Facebook posts, thus why I deleted my Instagram. And he said that he was going to cancel me back too. Another reason I contacted a lawyer was because I received a threatening DM, but that's the most I'm gonna go into specifics. I only received one of those, but it was enough to make me and my parents want to be on the safer side. And that's another reason why I'm done making these posts, because I want this whole thing to be over soon. I really appreciate the supportive DMs I received in the midst of the hateful ones, and I also appreciate the majority of supportive comments from BORU that were sent to me by someone in a DM too. I really hope the whole thing is over soon because it's been draining, but hopefully the lawyer can at least provide some peace of mind. Update: I'm going to update the bottom of my post instead of a new one because of the sensitivity of what's happened the past few months. The past few months have been really tough, and the encouragement I've gotten from reading my story on BORU has helped more than I can express. Everyone there has been really supportive, so much to the point that I reread the comments for reassurance when I feel down sometimes. When I broke up with him and told the school about him, I didn't know the next few months would be so tough, so I need to vent to get it out because things have been stressful. When I mentioned how my ex's father has been posting about me on Facebook in my previous posts, he posted my home address and a link to my socials in one of his rants where he said he'd cancel me back for canceling his son, and that led to me, among other things, looking into a lawyer. However, I also moved back into my parents for a few reasons since my last post. Someone slashed my tires in front of my home at night, and to this day, I don't know who. I have no proof that it's connected to him putting my address on Facebook, but I think it could have been. I also made a police report, but they didn't find who did it. I also mentioned in my last post that I was getting threats without going into specifics. But to be honest, some of them were DH threats that gave me lots of anxiety. I'm guessing they could be from some of my ex's friends or his father's, but I also received a lot of messages on my socials. Since his Facebook post where he linked my socials, that led to me deleting my socials, many cursing me out and calling me woke among other things. My Reddit posts were also picked up by numerous TikTok accounts that share Reddit stories with a video game playing in the background. And I was recently made aware of 3 of them that seemed to garner some attention. One with 80k views and a couple hundred comments, another with 20k, and a fair bit of the comments were supportive of my ex. That also directed traffic back to my Reddit post that led to a few more hateful DMs since my last update, along with a fair bit of supportive ones too, so that was another wave of messages to go through. I have no quarrel with the videos themselves because many comments were supportive too, and the channels share other Reddit stories too. The fact that some commented in agreement with my ex doesn't make the video bad either, but was just a realization of homophobia. Some comments made fun of Jason for coming out while others said my ex was right to uninvited him. It's just been a lot, and I came back to get it off my chest. I know I'll get more hateful comments after updating, but I also want to say I don't regret what I did. My ex hid his homophobia. We had friends who came out who he supported, and he came to pride marches with them too. As many commented, the mask came off eventually. In regards to the CP accusations from my ex, father, child pornography for those who were confused in the comments in my previous post where I didn't indicate, my parents helped hire a lawyer, but I won't go into specifics on that. All I'll say is that we're taking it seriously and are taking legal action against it. If anything comes from it, I'll share it in an update. The tire slashing and threats also did a number on my mental health, but it showed me some things too. The DMs also showed me just how ruthless people are, strangers who would never say such things to my face. I'm considering moving out of state, but I'm currently with my parents for safety reasons now. I especially appreciate reading the supportive comments, DMs that aren't hateful because they really help, and I'm also with a therapist, but progress hasn't been great yet. There's a lot of mental health stuff I don't feel comfortable going into specifics about. It's been a lot of craziness, but I hope it calms down with time.